Okay, today we're going to be doing a install video on a set of our replacement front arms for a Polaris RZR 200. Basically in the box you should have two front arms, two upper arms, and a zip tie pack. The arms should be labeled passenger, driver. If you don't have a tag on it, you can tell by the little hole. If that is facing forward, then the arm is the correct way. And the uppers, the easy way to tell is the arm that has this notch facing forward allows the tie rod to go in. So then that will be another way to check to make sure that is the right arm for the right side of the vehicle that you were installing it on. We're going to be doing it on a 2024 RZR 200, so completely stock. We're going to be showing you how to basically take the arms off, switch the arms, and check the setup. Okay, let's get started on this arm change. You're going to support the vehicle. We're using a lift by this bar slash the lower skid plate. If you don't have a lift, that's fine. You can use a jack and jack stands. And we're going to start by taking off the wheels, the front wheels. The nuts right here are 15 millimeter. And then the next item that's going to come off is the hood and the front grille. To do that, I recommend using a set of these clip pullers. They're a Harbor Freight deal. Real inexpensive and will save your life in this particular vehicle. And the only other tool you're going to need is a Torx. It's a number 40 to get one of these on each side. And the two that are below, right here and here. And then you need to remove the clips here, here, and here on both sides. And that will allow you to take off the front hood and grille area. Okay, let's get started on this arm change. You're going to support the vehicle. We're using a lift by this bar slash the lower skid plate. If you don't have a lift, that's fine. You can use a jack and jack stands. And we're going to start by taking off the wheels, the front wheels. The nuts right here are 15 millimeter. And then the next item that's going to come off is the hood and the front grille. To do that, I recommend using a set of these clip pullers. They're a Harbor Freight deal. Real inexpensive and will save your life in this particular vehicle. And the only other tool you're going to need is a Torx. It's a number 40 to get one of these on each side. And the two that are below, right here and here. And then you need to remove the clips here, here, and here on both sides. And that will allow you to take off the front hood and grille area. Okay, now you have the front bumper, the hood, and you remove the wheels. I usually put the nuts back on so they don't get lost and or messed up. Next step, you're going to want to remove the brake caliper, which is a 10 mil right here, top and bottom, and then you can just off to the side. And then these right here are a Torx T25. You're going to want to remove those as well, right there on both sides. So we'll get those off, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, we got the brakes off, flipped them up. I just set them up in here. They're out of the way. They shouldn't be affecting anything on the install. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the tie rod out at the spindle. It takes a 15 millimeter here and a 15 millimeter here. If you can see, there's a cut on it right in here range, you can stick a 15mm wrench like I have on this side, and then you can loosen this nut and then pop the tie rod out and just put it off to the side because you will need it again. Okay, I got the tie rod off. It's out of the way. Again, I put the nut back on because the threads on some of the nuts and bolts on this vehicle, the diameter is the same, but the thread pitch is either fine or coarse depending on what the bolt is or being used for. So it might get confusing when putting it back together. So I like to try to keep all the nuts and bolts in the items that they came in or out of, to where I don't have an issue later putting everything back together. So the next step is we're going to get rid of this nut right here, which is a 15 on the nut side and a 13 on the bolt side, top and bottom. We're going to get rid of those, and then we'll come back and separate the ball joints out of the spindle and remove the spindle. All right, I got the bolts and nuts out of the spindle. I'm gonna have one left right here. You'll pull that guy, and you'll notice that you're gonna want to hold the spindle, but this should work its way out. Okay, and then do the same out of the bottom, and boom, move it to the side. Now your spindle is off. Okay, we got our spindle off. Next up is going to be the lower arm. So you're going to want to take off the sway bar bolts. This guy right here. It's another 15, 13. The same with the shock, 15, 13. And then the arm itself. The nut side is going to be a 15. The other side's going to be a 13, front and back. You should be able to get a wrench and socket in there and take those off pretty easily. Okay, now you've got the lower arm off. Now take the shock bolt out and remove the shock. It's a 13 again and a 15 on this back side, and remove it. You should be able to pop the shock out, kind of like I have already done on this side. And then we'll attack the hardest part, the upper arm. Okay, now on to the tricky part. Depending on what year your car is, we have a 21 and we have this one, which is a 24. And we're going to take off the upper bolts, these ones, and this one. But the nut on our 21 is captured in there, so you just loosen that and it comes out. On the newer models, it's actually a nut. So a lot of questions is like, how do you get back there? Because clearly there's no room. One way we devised is you sacrifice a 15mm and you cut the head open like this, and then you can snake it through right here like this, and you can get it around the bolt and you can get it out. It's not fun, but it's better than drilling holes in the firewall or taking the firewall out. That's a very timely manner. All right, we got our upper arm off. This is the little part that I was talking about. See how that's clearly a nut back there. So with this now, as you can see, you just kind of wiggle it on out. There you go. When you go to install it, kind of do the same thing. It will capture itself in there and try to line it up. It's definitely tricky. I'm gonna try to come up with a tool or something that holds everything a little better. See what I can come up with. Okay, so now, real quick, what I was talking about with the bolts earlier is this is an arm bolt, an inner, and this is the spindle bolt. You can clearly see, we put them next to each other, that they are two different thread types. This one being coarse and this one being finer, but the nuts look the same, so you don't want to mix those up. It might make it a little difficult. All the arm bolts are all the same length, so don't worry about mixing those, mixing and matching uppers with lowers and so forth. All right, let's get ready to do an install. Okay, I got our replacement arms sitting in their respective sides, lefts and rights. Again, looking at the bow on the upper allows the tie rod to go through, so that side faces forward, and then on the lower has the hole. The hole should be facing forward. And you know you have it on the right side. All right, let's start with the upper. Should just get right on in there and slip your bolts on in and start tightening it up. Okay, we got the upper arm bolt in the front, the back one in partially just to kind of hold it, and then we're going to take our cut scenario, we're going to slip it in here, go around, and then we're going to have to kind of feed it around, and you'll find where once you push the bolt in, it'll find kind of a home and start threading it by hand, and you'll know if you get it or not. Okay, now we've gone ahead and hooked up the lower arm and the sway bar back. Got the bolts in there. Everything's good to go. It moved. All right, next we're going to grab the spindle and start putting the spindle on. Okay, we've got the lower arm hooked up to the spindle, upper arm hooked up to the spindle, the bolts back in. If you have any struggles with getting the pins in, you can stick a screwdriver right in between here and it'll help spread the gap, and that'll allow the pin to slide in a little bit easier. It will take a little bit of force because it needs to be a tight fit. That way nothing gets loose or comes apart. And then your next step is going to be reinstalling the tie rod right here, grabbing your caliper and hooking your caliper back up. Okay, we got the tie rod back on and tight. We got the brake line zip tied back on with the supplied zip ties. And now all we got to do is put the shock on. So let's do that. Okay, shock's all back on and tight, as you can see right here. Next thing we're going to do is put the bumper back on, or front fascia piece. I usually like to use these bolts to set it on first. I'll leave them a little loose till I get them all on, and then I can go ahead and tighten it. I need to make sure that it gets behind this piece. You can go ahead after that and put on the hood. It'll click in. Oh, just before you forget, the wiring for the lights, got to plug those back in, and then you can go ahead and put the hood back on. Okay guys, we got the body back on. We got everything installed. Just do a quick little once over, make sure everything is tight before we go and start putting the wheel on. Last thing, once you get the wheel on and get it on the ground, you're going to want to check the toe. There is going to be a slight adjustment needed just out of the variance between the stock arms, the car, our arms, etc. If you want this thing to roll good and go straight, I recommend doing an alignment, which we have in another video. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.